Long ago, in the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, a child was born who would change the world forever. His name was Alexander. Born in 356 BC in the city of Pella, Alexander was the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. From a young age, he showed incredible intelligence and courage. He was taught by one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Aristotle. From him, Alexander learned about philosophy, science, and the art of leadership. But most of all, he learned to dream of greatness. He admired the Greek hero Achilles and believed he too was destined for eternal glory. In 336 BC, tragedy struck. King Philip II was assassinated, and Alexander, at only 20 years old, became king. Many Greek city-states tried to break free from Macedonian rule, but Alexander moved swiftly, defeating every rebellion and uniting Greece under his command. Now that Greece was secure, his eyes turned east, to the vast and powerful Persian Empire, an empire that had once invaded Greece, an empire that Alexander swore to conquer. In the spring of 334 BC, Alexander led his army of 40,000 men across the Hellespont into Asia Minor. He had begun his legendary campaign. At the Battle of Granicus, he faced the Persian governors, or satraps. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander charged into battle himself and won a stunning victory. This victory opened the gates of Asia. For the first time, the Persian Empire began to tremble. A year later, in 333 BC, Alexander met the Persian King Darius III at the Battle of Issus. Darius's army was vast, far greater than Alexander's, but the narrow battlefield gave the Macedonians the advantage. With speed and precision, Alexander led his cavalry straight at Darius. The Persian lines broke. King Darius fled, leaving behind his mother, wife, and children. The victory was complete. Alexander now controlled all of Syria and marched south into Egypt. In Egypt, the people welcomed Alexander as a liberator. They crowned him pharaoh, believing he was sent by the gods. He founded a new city, Alexandria, near the Nile Delta. That city would one day become one of the greatest centers of learning in the world. But Alexander's dream was far from over. He wanted to conquer the entire Persian Empire and beyond. In 331 BC, Alexander faced Darius one last time, at Gaugamela. It was the greatest battle of his life. The Persians brought an enormous army, with chariots, cavalry, and even war elephants. But Alexander's strategy was flawless. He led a daring charge right through the center of the Persian lines. Once again, Darius fled the battlefield. The Persian Empire was no more. Alexander entered Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the magnificent capitals of Persia. At Persepolis, he allowed his men to burn the royal palace, a symbolic act of revenge for the Persian invasion of Greece. Now Alexander was called the King of Asia, ruler of the greatest empire the world had ever seen. But Alexander's ambition had no limits. He marched further east, through the mountains of Central Asia, conquering lands like Bactria and Sogdiana. There he married Roxana, a local princess, uniting the Macedonians with the peoples of the East. In 326 BC, he crossed the Indus River and entered India. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, he fought the brave King Porus. The battle was fierce and bloody, fought in rain and mud. But Alexander won, and impressed by Porus's courage, he made him an ally rather than a prisoner. Yet his soldiers were exhausted. When Alexander planned to march farther toward the Ganges, his men refused. Reluctantly, he turned back. On the long journey home, Alexander crossed the harsh deserts of Persia. Many of his men died of thirst and exhaustion. In 323 BC, he arrived in Babylon, still dreaming of new conquests. But soon after, he fell ill and died at just 32 years old. The world mourned its greatest conqueror. No one could take his place. After his death, his generals divided the empire among themselves, creating the kingdoms of Egypt, Asia, and Macedonia. The great empire he built was gone, but his legacy lived on. Through his conquests, Greek culture, art, and language spread across 3 continents, from Europe to Africa and Asia. This fusion created what history calls the Hellenistic civilization. Cities he founded, like Alexandria, became centers of learning, philosophy, and trade. And for centuries, the name Alexander the Great inspired kings, generals, and dreamers across the world. In just 12 short years, Alexander the Great changed the course of history. He conquered nations, united cultures, and left behind a legacy that still echoes through time.